Good morning, 6AMERS. The 6AMERS began in April 2020 in the heart of the pandemic. Forming this podcast is our way of extending the community and the message of the community into the world. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the 6AMERS podcast. My name is Sky Michaels. I'm the host, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Emily Bosser. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning.
We are interviewing today a gentleman that is a dear friend, a mentor of mine, and a guy named Golub. Gordon is the regional vice president of the tri-state area of Compass, which is New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. And I personally call him the godfather of Compass. He was the first employee that Robert Refkin hired here at Compass to lead the company. And to this day, he is still the leader of this company that I look up to beyond maybe anyone. Gordon is someone that I want everyone, as you're listening, is just this quiet leader, and his love for the people that he is in charge of, it just pours through in everything that he does. Emily, what was one of your takeaways? You knew Gordon from working here and being part of the sales management team here at Compass. What's one of your takeaways from this interview?
Gordon, the Godfather, is one of those infectious beings that you just know wants the best for everyone around him and wants to elevate everyone in what they're doing. One of the things that he talks about a lot that, is so important is company culture, because without culture, a really strong culture, it's really hard for a business to succeed. And he sees that and he lives by that and he embodies it and he infuses it into everything he does. Sky, what about you?
For me, I don't want to give any of them away, but Gordon has these sayings that are imprinted in my brain, and I know lots of people at Compass and probably before Compass as well. And as you're listening, try to pick up on some of these sayings that Gordon has. And if you're a leader out there, try to embrace the fact that you can be really powerful in very few words, right? So in the 6AMERS, we have a couple sayings we use, well, more than a couple, but process over perfection, healthy, selfish. Some of these things are little sayings that have massive impact and can really shift the way you think about sort of your approach to life or to business or to what you're doing in that moment. So I love Gordon's sayings. More importantly, I just love the fact that he is comfortable with being uncomfortable. He made a decision 10 years ago to leave a company that was great. And frankly, he took a massive risk 10 years ago, and his ability to make that decision and be comfortable with the risk in order to know that there's this huge upside that he was going to create was something that I'll always remember and always thank him for as well.
So well said, Sky. I think all of us out there are leaders. No matter what or where that is in our life, we all do show up as leaders. So when you listen to this episode with Gordon, pick up those tiny golden nuggets of leadership and see how you can embody those today.
I love that. All right, well, let's get into it. Enjoy the episode. Gordon, welcome, my friend, to the 6AMERS. Gordon, I see the balloons in the background.
So little
celebration
last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife was away and sent me a lot of black and white balloons.
That's awesome.
For our IPO celebration last week. So.
And before we get into that, obviously I definitely want to talk to you a little bit about that. But before we do, just so everyone knows who you are, and if you could just give us your quick little background of who you are and like your Compass journey.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sky. So I grew up in northern Jersey, two older brothers, a younger sister, and come from my parents were divorced when I was 9. I think that gave me a lot of the skills that I use personally and professionally today. My brothers were kind of out of the house, and someone had to be there for mom and take care of her and my younger sister. So went to school at George Washington University, stayed on that East Coast corridor just past Philly. Yep. And when I graduated, a buddy of mine that I used to work out with said, "Hey, why don't you come work with me for the summer and rent apartments?" That was in 1992. Here I am 29 years later. I was an average agent at best and decided to get on the management side and started a company in New York City called City Habitats, had a small ownership stake in my offices. And when that company sold to Realogy, I ran it for 8 years with my boss, who was the president, and all of our revenue reported into corporate. And that's really where I earned my stripes. That was best in class brokerage in New York City. And it was, I learned a ton through the process, and also the fact that the resistance to grow, when I spoke to the leadership team and I was pushing to do more and more for agents, and they said 2% growth is fine. I looked at my kids and they were 3 and 4, and I started freaking out. I said, I better do something, because where technology is in the front of the bus. And I was just fortunate enough, when you put yourself out to the universe, as I'm sure you guys talk about, and you start thinking and dreaming, and good things happen usually. And I'm just lucky. Robert Refkin knocked on my door. He was working at Goldman, and I could tell you more about that if you want. But that's where it started.
What was it? So that first meeting, like, I mean, how did you and Robert cross paths? Did he target you? Did you just randomly meet? Was it like, serendipitous, like you're having a cup of coffee, like, hey, like what brought that meeting point together?
Sure. So typical Robert Refkin. It's so he was at Goldman Sachs, chief of staff, and he had emailed me, and at that point, I would forward any emails of somebody that wanted to start a new company, especially a lot of the tech companies. They wanted some of the things that we had, and I would set up 4 meetings per year, and I forwarded to my assistant, and I guess I didn't respond within a day, or she didn't respond within a day.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I get a phone call from a gentleman at Apollo. Now Apollo owned Realogy at that point in time. It was privately held before they brought it public again.
That's right.
And so-and-so from Apollo, and I said, oh, I better pick up. They own us. Apollo never called me. They never got involved directly with our business. And he said, would you meet with a friend of mine, Robert Refkin? Apparently he reached out to you, and you haven't responded yet. And I was all embarrassed. And anyway, of course, so the next day I met with him and Andy Bernstein, who she and her husband, Tom, owned Chelsea Piers here in New York. He was also roommates with George Bush, and part ownership in the Texas Rangers. Andy's an amazing woman. She's incredible. Anyway, they both came in, and we chatted for like 20 to 30 minutes. And there was a poster on the wall behind me that Robert looked at, and it said top 10 sayings by Gordo. Yeah. And the managers gave it to me. Because at the time the managers, I was leading the sales management team. And it had a bunch of pictures of me hugging them and that sort of thing. And he looked at me and he said, "What's that?" And I said, "It's something the managers gave to me." And he said, "Are those yours saying? Are you Gordo?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm Gordo." So he said, "And they did that for you?" And I said, "Yeah." And anyway, we talked for another minute or so. He said, "Would you want to do this with me?" And we were sitting in my office. I said, "Well, how would that work? Because you haven't opened your business yet, and I'm working here." And he said, "Well, why don't you think about it? Think about if you want to do it with us." And anyway, the meeting ended. I had walked out front on Park Avenue South and 21st Street. I see a bunch of familiar faces, New York faces on the call that probably familiar, and that was Corcoran's, kind of training center as well as City Habitats. And I saw him on the corner saying, "That's the kind of guy we got to build culture around. So anyway, it was off to the races. I realized my negotiability went up a little bit because he liked me, and he didn't see me. And anyway, we met. He was supposed to run his 50th marathon. It got canceled due to Hurricane Sandy, and he had run 49. And then we met at a dinner after Sandy, and Ori was there, and Ugo, and Andy Bernstein. And it was really cold, and it was in November, and they were firing questions at me. And I started sweating at dinner because they asked me so many questions. I'm like, these people are nuts.
Yeah.
I was like, "Excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom. I didn't need to go to the bathroom. I need to put water on my face." I was like, "I need a break from you."
Yeah.
So put some cold water on my face, came back out. Ori looks at me and says, "You want to go for a walk?" And it was freezing cold. I said, "I kind of gave him a walk."
Yeah.
They all laughed and they said, "An Ori walk is a good thing." We walked around the East Village for a couple hours, put a deal together, and I started 2 months later in January. So that's
Yeah.
the
That'd be
beginning
great.
story.
Talk to me about, oh, because it's funny because Ori is one of these figures that we all know. Robert, everyone has seen him speak, like emails, whatever. Robert's so well known, but no one knows Ori. Talk a little bit to us if you can, like,
Yeah, of course.
like who is Ori and what role has he played in Compass? Because I think he's this like this person that's almost like in the background that we don't know about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So really interesting. I don't think there would be a Compass without Ori, obviously. And so let's take it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Robert was a White House fellow and met Ori at the White House. Ori was one of 30 kids under 30. They did this 30 under 30 thing. Robert was at the White House.
Yeah.
And they sat at the same table and had lunch together. They didn't know each other and got to know each other. And once again, Robert was at Goldman, and then Ori he sold his, prior to meeting Robert, his first kind of business thesis in school to Google, which was 25% of their search at that point in time. And then he sold his next company to Twitter. And then Robert's like, "Who is this guy? How does he get this done?" It's like crazy. And when he sold to Twitter, Ori leaned on Robert for some advice and Goldman and that sort of thing. And then Robert wanted to get out of Goldman and said, "Ori, let's do something." He said, "No, I'm good, man. Like I'm kind of retired for now. Like
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do." And Robert kept pushing and pushing. So Ori was Robert's first recruit. He just kept pushing. Ori's like, "I'm good, I'm good." And then he said, "If you find a really big problem, like a really big problem that will blow my mind,
Yeah.
then I'll consider doing something with you."
Yeah.
So Robert, texts his whole sphere, which is huge, and says, "What's your biggest problem?" And the largest percentage was buying, selling, renting a home.
Yeah.
So he went back to Ori. "Look, this is what I got. This is the biggest problem in my sphere." Ori went online, started looking, and basically said, "How did everyone miss this?" And realized how archaic everything was, and then then their relationship started. Now, as far as Ori goes, I would not have come to Urban Compass without Ori, because remember, I wanted I needed something with the technology in the front of the bus, and every brokerage had its excuse, profit margins, all this stuff. And I knew that Ori could hire the engineer. Still today, think about this. It goes under the radar, but our competitors still cannot hire engineers. Think about how this is going to unfold. We have 600 of them. Our average competitor has one or two if they have them.
Yeah.
And how can you build any company in this day and age where you don't have your own incubator of technology under your own roof, where you got to ship it out? By the time you get it back, the technology's old. So, my kids kind of sent me a signal when I decided to do this. They were playing with their little, whatever it was, iPads or whatever, and they were 3 and 4, and we had 2 at the time. Now we have 3, and I was watching it. I'm like, man, they're better at this than me. I need to get with a technology company or where it's in the front of the bus. And Ori, look, he showed up every day to work for the first 2 to 3 years he was there. Engineers don't typically come in early, but they stay late. And he'd come in around 11 and stay till midnight, and was helped us through so many things, and obviously still has such an influence. I saw him last week. He's without him, we wouldn't have been able to hire the engineers. And early on, he was the guiding force. Like, he was the one that hired so many people, including me. He negotiated with me early on. I remember trying to get more money, and he said, "Let me be clear with you. We're not paying you a dime more than X, And I'm like, "But this, but that," and I just, I can provide this. He said, "Let me be really clear with you. We're getting into business to put guys like you out of business." Pause. I'm like, "Oh shit, this guy's serious." And I believed him. And actually, the interesting thing is, he's right, right? So To close it up on Ori, so much of what he said through the years has come true. And
Yeah.
when he says it, you don't even think it could be a reality. It's he has the ability to see 2 or 3 years ahead,
Yeah.
like nobody that I've seen. Like I remember he told me early on, yeah, no, I'd really love to, own a basketball team. I'm like, own a basketball team? How are you going to do that? Next thing you know, one Saturday morning, I come into our initial office on Spring and Sixth, and he has me interview a coach for a team that he was in the process of buying. He got over to Israel and he came back and said, I'm going to buy, I'm in bidding against 7 other bidders to buy this team in Israel. They've never won a championship since 1960. And the coach is actually an ex 76er coach. I forget his name, super nice guy.
Yeah.
He ended up hiring him initially, but anyway, long story short, he bought the team. They went on to win the championship 2 years in a row, and he's since sold it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, what came to my mind, and I remember reading the Forbes article that came out right before the IPO and everything. And, there's all kinds of press, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, oh my God, they have no idea. I think one of the things that excites me is like, to this day, the public, like, not when I say the public, I mean like general public, but the real estate public, they have no idea what we have. Is that, I mean, am I off base on that? Or is that like you're meant, like, they don't know, right? Like they still to this day don't know.
Yeah.
That we are this.
You just gave me the chills because it's what drives me. That particular author of that article, if you look, he also made about 5 other ridiculous statements about companies that are all completely wrong.
Yeah.
Not worth putting more energy towards him, but sometimes you need to write articles, for whatever reason. So, it's we've been the underdog. People have been picking on us since we got started. You all know that, and there's a lot of haters out there. This industry. It's like, it's kind of like the old boys club, and the old boys clubs don't work anymore. A bunch of boys sitting around smoking cigars. Look at what's happened in, all of these leaders in their respective industry, whether it's the chefs or the movie industry, and what was acceptable in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they're getting called on it, right? So female leadership, if you look at our board and you look at our leadership team, and it's incredible what we're building, and I think it's unique, and we also don't raise our hands and say we're better than all these other companies, and but little by little it's unfolding. People still doubt us. I think a little bit less since the IPO. The IPO has obviously helped us with our brand, more respect. If the SEC puts you on the operating table, opens you up and checks out your organs and your veins and says you're good to go, you're probably good to go. So but people don't realize that how critical it is to have technology in the front of the bus, how critical it is to have the culture that we have, how critical it is to have a very, very thin wall between the sales force, our customers, the agents, and the employees. That's probably, and we've done a lot of things well, and we've also made a lot of mistakes. We've raised money. We've hired incredible agents and incredible employees, and we've done a lot of things well. But the thing I think that, and this is credit to you, Sky, I'll never forget the first time meeting you at headquarters. The thing that we have done best and that we need to continue to protect is culture. And I remember when Sky walked in, Rob Lehman said to me, I was walking through the kind of the kitchen area at headquarters, 95th. And he said, yeah, you're going to go interview this guy, Sky. And I'd never met him. And he said, look, I said, anything particular I should focus on? He said, well, let me tell you this. He said, and those of you who know Rob, he's like dialed in. You know, McKinsey, he was offered McKinsey partnership at 22, 23 years old. You know, speaking of Forbes, he was like top 30 under 30 in Forbes. And he said, let me tell you this. He said, if Sky comes over, we will build out Philly and be one of the best companies in Philly in a year or two. If Sky doesn't come, it will take us a year or two just to find somebody else that can even come close to that. So he said, no pressure, but go do your thing. So anyway, I went in and Sky and I got to chatting and what you have done, I'm not saying this because you're leading this right now, but like, think about what you've done. You know, you have a couple hundred people on this call right now, and now this has gone nationwide. And it's not just the 6AMers. What you've done with sales managers and how and agents and employees and the culture is like, it is the foundation, the absolute foundation to build this company on. And early on, Robert would not fray from it. And think about this, everyone. If we wanted to, we could have had another billion or $2 billion in revenue when we went public. The stock price would be higher because of that. But those people are not welcome to work here. We could reach out and all across the country. You know, in every one of your cities, you think about those people in your heads right now that are not welcome here, right? So there's a lot of money out there, and we didn't bring them in because culture is so important.
So true. And I think, you know, Gordon, I think it's like the pandemic highlighted Compass's energy, right? And we really highlighted the fact that, you know, Compass is all about energy, right? It's like this crazy, crazy cool thing where it's like that positive energy is what we're about, you know, period.
That's
And
right.
I think we got through this past year. You know, the year you get Facebook notifications, and I got one a couple of days ago. I sent it to John Bielek, and a year ago we were doing trainings on the CARES Act. Remember the CARES Act?
Yeah, of course.
How as an agent you get unemployment and all this stuff? That was a year ago. A year ago.
Crazy.
Insane. And then we go public like last week. So what was going public like for you? I mean, I know me and you have talked personally, but just so everyone can hear, like, you know, I mean, you were the first sales manager. You took a risk, you know, leaving Corcoran, the flagship of real estate in New York City, which is New York City is the flagship of real estate. And you went to a room in this one room office, right? Like, and then and then then you go public. Like, well, just tell everyone about that experience for you.
Yeah. So what's coming to mind is what drove me every single day to that point. What still drives me, but what I realized it really drove me to that day more than anything is when I left my prior company. They owed me money, and it was clear they owed me money. And I was, you know, basically I was there for 18 years, and they didn't pay it to me. They said, "No, my attorneys, this, that, whatever." And I was furious because I gave my heart and soul to that, you know, working 6, 7 days a week for 18 years. And so I made a decision that day, January 10th, you know, in 2013, to say, you know what? I spoke to my attorney, said it'll probably cost us 30 grand, you know, cost you 30 grand. I'm gonna have to battle them. Realogy has their counsel on staff. And I said, you know what? I'm going to channel this energy and put my head down and focus and build the best damn company that this industry's ever seen, so they can look at that and then they have to deal with that. So the reason why I tell that story is because on IPO day, for whatever reason, that specific day was the day I kind of let go of that.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, it was just a lot of vindication for me on that specific day, because I didn't need to say a word. We're a public company, and you want to treat people like that, okay? You know, that's your decision. And by the way, thank you. You know, thank you. It's the best 100 grand that you never paid me, because I just channeled that energy. And I'm a very competitive guy. So, when you compete and you want to cheat, then you pay the price. So that's how I felt on IPO day. What happened that morning? I went to bed around 3 because I couldn't sleep, and I got up at around 6 and went down to Wall Street and saw the Compass, at the huge banner at the New York Stock Exchange, and checked into a hotel actually the night before because I knew I would be checking out that morning. But I checked in online because I needed the room for that morning because I was moderating a national panel right after the IPO, and that was at 10:15. So I need to go from the stock exchange over there. But just saw a bunch of people and just had a lot of great moments, a lot of smiles, a lot of "could you believe this" type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then just a lot of celebrations since. And I'm an emotional guy and I cry a lot, but for whatever reason, I haven't cried yet. I don't know why, but I can't wait until it all comes out because I'm
Yeah.
gonna cry pretty heavy,
Yeah.
just to kind of release the emotions. But that's kind of how I felt, and what I was doing. Moderating that panel was an honor for me. Just some incredible human beings that are pros at their craft nationwide. And I think they said there was 4,000 people on the call that day. So that it felt really good to be asked to do that. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So in an effort to make you cry this morning, if anyone knows Gordon, in the chat, if you guys could and you can type as long as you want, as short as you want, just do me a favor and let's put in the chat, and I'll get you the chat later, Gordon, so you don't need to read it. But I might try to pick on something. We'll see where we go. Like I said, I don't plan these interviews, so I have no idea where this is going to go. But in the chat, if you could put what Gordon has meant to you. And Gordon, I'm going to tell you a little bit of what you've meant to me personally. As someone who also went through that experience in Philly, you were the guiding force for me when I was making my decision, because I was leaving a situation where people were doubting everything. Everything you heard, I probably heard as well. You can't do this. This is not possible. What are you doing? You're committing career suicide. You're all this stuff. And there's this person in my world that I kept on thinking about who made the decision before me, and that was you. And you made the decision 7 years ago, whatever it is. And every time there was someone that said, you can't do this, I thought of you.
Mm.
And I can guarantee there's probably 1,000 people that you have impacted, probably tens of thousands of people. And I think it's really important sometimes as a leader to just know the impact that you don't know the impact you're having on someone.
Yeah.
And you've had impact on, hundreds of thousands of lives. And I just wanted you to know the fact of, yes, Ori, Robert, obviously leaders of, the guys at the top are really important. Guys like me and you, the sergeants, so to speak, of Compass.
Yeah.
We are the sergeants of Compass, right? We're the ones that also then keep everyone sort of pulled together, especially in times of crisis. So I really just wanted you to know how special you were for me as an individual.
Thank you. You have no idea. I'm not like what that means to me. I've worked my whole career to be able to walk shoulder to shoulder with people like you. It hasn't come easy. And it means the world to me. And you did it. You got the tears. You got the waterworks. You did it. Really, I've worked my whole career to be around people like you and to be able to be respected and walk shoulder to shoulder and influence others. I've worked really, really hard at it. And
good. Well, keep working. We need you.
I will.
Yeah. Gordon, tell me what's your favorite? We had 10 rules, and one day I'm going to get that poster.
I'd asked for it because I know he spoke about it. And actually, I'm going to dinner with the guy. He works for a developer now. And I've asked him, but I'm going to push him hard to dig deep and find it. He wants to take me out to dinner to congratulate me.
There must be a photo somewhere. But
Yeah.
what's one of the what's one of the 10 sayings that was on that wall that you remember?
Oh yeah. So I think my favorite one that resonated with people the most was work hard and be nice to people.
Mm.
You know, if you think about how many people actually work hard, okay, whatever percentage in your mind, think about that. And how many people are actually really nice to people? Think about that, whatever percentage in your mind. Now, think about this. How many people actually work hard and are nice to people? Think about that. Work really hard and are nice to people.
Yeah.
Ooh. So, look, that's a saying that has brought me the most success in my life, you know, personally and professionally, with my friends, family, um, you know, and in business. And things aren't always smooth. I mean, there's tragedy all over the place. You know, there's stuff that we all go through that is really difficult. This isn't some like, oh, the world is perfect type thing. But even in those moments where things are difficult, if you work hard and you're nice to people, eventually, eventually, good things will happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, that,
All right, go give me another one. I mean, these are just like
yeah.
give me another one because now I'm like I need all 10, but let's see if we can get two or three. We good.
Yeah, sure. So, this one is is um, is something you could all use. The agents could use with sellers or buyers, or I use it in interviews all the time, and every time, and it's called the R factor question. Sky, I think you've heard me use it, but you know, so with the seller, just to use it that way, you know, if we're sitting here 3 months from today, after we've sold your property, what would we have had to have done for you to feel absolutely certain that we were the right team to hire? And then you just jot down everything they say, and then you repeat it back to them, and you basically you've pulled out all the objections. And it's the funniest thing. I used it last night at an interview, and I swear 9 out of 10 times when you ask somebody the question, it's called the R factor now, the Dan Sullivan question. You guys can Google it, but um, when you ask somebody that question, 9 out of 10 times they say, "Good question." I used it on Mayel when she asked me to lead and it sets you up for success, because she said, she was my boss at the time, you know, our old
Yeah.
COO. She's no longer here as of a couple of years ago, but she said, Gordon, would you lead these sales manager calls across the country? It's about 100 sales managers at the time, and I'm doing them, but I think you know, maybe getting you in there a little bit, it could resonate. It's, you know, and she said they're every week, and we're going to do 50 of them together. And she was my boss, so I can't say no, right?
Sure.
But Mayel, let me ask you a question before I commit to that. If we were to lead these 50 calls together every single week, after 1 year, what would have had to have happened as a result of leading 50 calls together for you to say, Gordon, those calls were an absolute success?
Mm.
This is what she did. Gordon, good question. For whatever reason, people usually look up to. I don't know. It's the funniest thing. There's a small book written on the question. You know, I think it's the most hidden, brilliant gem that I've ever, and agents that use it with sellers, they have a lot of fun with it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too. My theory is that we have no way to prove it, but my theory would be that very few sellers are going to say, "Oh, well, you got me." You know, let's say the seller wants to price it at 1.5 million. You got me 1.5 million, and that's what success is, right? I bet almost no seller, maybe one or two here and there, I'm sure, but
Yeah,
very few people are probably going to reply back with the number. They're going to reply back with a feeling, emotion,
that's right. Yeah,
whatever, right?
the question gets to the front and back of the brain. It comes from strategic coach Dan Sullivan, created it 40 years ago. uh, it's called the R factor, now branded as the Dan Sullivan question, but the reason it stands for R factor is it's relationship. R is for relationship.
Mm.
And when you ask somebody in the interview setting, I was interviewing this brilliant young lady last night for a position on the operations side here in New York, and I asked her the question, you know, and you know, and in that setting, it goes, if you were to come on, you know, and work with us, and you were to be on, you know, and I phrase it like, it's just as important for you to be successful
Yeah.
in the role and feel great about it as it is for the company. And if you were to come on and be on for a year and, work with us, and after 1 year, what would have had to have happened for you to say, Gordon, this was the best year of my professional career?
Mm.
You know what she did? Good question.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
then she told me she had to have an impact on the company, and she wanted to be in the room to make the decisions, and and gave me all the answers. That it's a really fun question.
Awesome.
By the way, you can read the book in about a half hour. It's like
cool.
Then so
we'll try to get you guys. We'll try to post a copy of the title of the book for everyone. So the art, and I think what it comes back to, Gordon, too, which is what I feel like you espouse this is relationships. Like at the end of the day, that's what this business is about, right? It's like old school business of relationships. I almost wish we could go back to days of Rolodexes, right?
Yeah.
The reality is we have thousands. We got the crack cocaine of Zillow, and for most people, right? I call it. Zillow became this crack cocaine where we were like, oh, lead of all these people we didn't know that results in nothing. We got to get back into the Rolodex of just 100 people that we love, 200, maybe 150,
right.
and that's all we got to worry about. That's all we got to worry about. But you got to use the technology to help you with that process. So that's great. Where do you, I mean, we're not tech guys, like we're people, but like, where do you feel the platform is going to go in the next year or two, just from a person, no tech background, right?
Yeah. No, that's me. No tech. That's why I wanted to make sure I got with people that could bring tech, because I wasn't bringing tech. So, I the way I'll answer that question is what I'm hearing from agents, because that's the reality of what's occurring, and not everyone speaks up about it. There was an agent in Connecticut that I spoke to a few weeks ago, that said, Gordon, I'm not sure agents really understand this. She said, I used to work at IBM 35 years ago. And she said, do you guys understand what you've created with the CRM and likely to success? Like, do you have any idea? And I said, I think I do, but tell me.
Yeah.
And she said, do you understand that I have 2 properties in contract that I never would have had in contract if it wasn't for likely to sell? And she said, I just don't think, she said, I don't think agents understand that this is real artificial intelligence, that, I know it's difficult and they're busy and they're running small businesses, and that this thing really works. And so, that really was, and I've heard it before, but, to hear it from somebody that is a top agent, and to tell me, we weren't even talking about the CRM. We were debating something else, and then she just went there, and she said it reminds me of when I was at IBM, and people just didn't, they took us for granted, and they didn't understand what we were doing, and so look, to me, it's all about it's all about helping our customers live better lives. And what's a better life? More money in less time. That's like, more time to do whatever you want to do. You want to pour it back into your business? Great.
Yeah.
You want to take 6 weeks off a year? Maybe some of you are doing that, but all of you are capable of doing that and making the same, if not more. And technology is just a piece of it, and the bar is, we don't need to create something, we've made a lot of mistakes trying to create something off the charts, and we don't need to do that. We've wasted a lot of time there. The bar is really low for technology in our industry, and all we need to do is raise it up a bunch. You all remember it wasn't that long ago that you didn't have this kind of phone. It's like, I remember the first iPhone I got was 8 years ago when I came here, and it was like this thing felt totally awkward to me, and flip phones weren't that long away. So, it's the bar in our industry is not that. It's just whatever we can do to help agents' lives become easier, make more money in less time. When, to get into the intricacies of the platform, I don't really know what's actually going to be created, but I can guarantee you one thing: we're going to make things so seamless and easy that I think it's almost going to feel natural to agents that this is what we should have and this is what we should be using. And if they were to not have it, I think at that point they would freak out. Just like we take this thing for granted, and all of a sudden, this thing, you lose this thing for 6 hours. Oh my God. And think about what's in this. Think about if we were to pile everything here, like on this counter, right, that I'm sitting at, right?
Yeah.
If we were to pile like if we were to put a calculator on here and a telephone on here and a camera on here, and you just keep going, right?
Yeah.
It would be piled so high with stuff just that's in here, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what the platform is going to do. It's there's so much that's going to be in the platform that agents are going to be like, oh yeah, this is like this is how I run my business.
Yeah, it's so great. That's the visual of like your iPhone being like broken apart into all the components of what it's replaced, right? Like your filing cabinet, your photo books, your photo albums, that's such a great visual. And then, once again, I think that's like the piece that other companies don't get and the public doesn't get is the fact that everything talks to each other.
Yeah.
It's like your iPhone, right? Like I buy something online, I got to enter a code, and now the code pops up magically. Do you want to enter this code? It's like, what? That's in my text. Now it's in my, like, on my, it's just insane, the integration. And just so everyone knows, we're going to, I try to do quick little coaching tidbits. I'm going to do a quick little segment on the likely to sell, because in my opinion, it's something I guarantee everyone on this call has the likely to sell sitting there, and you're not doing them. And it is like, we were on a call yesterday and I was watching my founding team and seeing their numbers. And I think Jeff, I don't know, Jeff, you weren't on, but I'm like looking at like this, like, oh my God, 1,400 potential seller leads in a crazy market. It's like, oh my God. So we're going to dive into that. But anyways, Gordon, what, if you had to give an agent on this call or an employee at Compass, like, what 2021, we're in the beginning of the second quarter, to obviously, in some ways, it's a harder market for some people, some markets than COVID, ironically, just because of the freneticness. Like, give us one piece of advice that we can carry through this year.
Yeah. So first, keep doing what you're doing. You're on this 6 a.m. call. You're setting a lot of great habits. I rarely wear this shirt because I feel like then it becomes kind of about me. Urban Compass, I was here, but I purposely wore it because when I put this shirt on, it reminds me of grit, toughness, grit, hard work, go at it, because those days they were just ugly. We were doing so much wrong. We were going to go out of business every week, and everyone was doubting us. We had no reason to succeed. So all of you remind me of that, and that's why I wore this for you to get on your playing field, because you guys are here doing the 6AMers. So just stay true to what you're doing and don't take it for granted. And right along with that, this is going to sound cliche and you've heard it before, but I'll tell you, it's the reason why I've been able to have success at Compass. It's the single biggest reason. And I think it would be for all of you too, is just know where you are strongest and quadruple down. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And by the way, you're going to get, think about like any great athlete. They're strongest at like running fast if they're a track star, or if they're a basketball player and they're a guard, they're really strong. They got a great handle. They dribble the ball well, right? But they work at it really hard every day, and they go out there and get their ass kicked certain days. But they know what their strengths are, and they keep working really hard at their strengths. And that's what I would say. When we first started, we had nothing. There was no search at Compass and at Urban Compass, and then it was all I did was play to my strength, and I got lucky. It worked for me. I did these things called BGMs, business growth meetings. I did 8 to 12 a day, and they were 30-minute sessions, and I kept them to 30 minutes. And they were just about helping people grow their business. I used the R factor question. The agents would come in the room and I'd say, I got this going on. I got that going on. And then I would say, can I ask you a question? If we were sitting here and it was July 4th, what would have had to have happened in your business for you to say, Gordon, the last 3 months are absolutely incredible?
Yeah.
They'd then give me the answer. I'd repeat it back and I'd say, can we spend the next 20 minutes working towards that? And they'd say, absolutely. So help them get out of their head, brought the answer out of them. So I played to my strength. Just play to your strengths. You're going to have to do some things in some areas where you're weak. And also, you're running small businesses. I know it's hard to borrow money for your small business or to spend money. I've been there. I'd push yourself on that. You know, you can't run a small business and expect any brokerage or anybody in your life to cover the expenses for your small business if you want the quickest growth. So, you know, get somebody to take the weaknesses off the table for you, even an intern, whatever you need to do, and play to your strengths.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, Gordon, I'm gonna leave with a quote from Sherry Matlock. And I apologize, Sherry, I might have mispronounced your last name, but Gordon was my manager for the first 2 years at Compass. And I never truly experienced excellent management until we started working together. Gordon helped me visualize my dreams, my goals, and he saw me in a way that I hadn't seen yet. To me, Gordon means heart and growth. He shared with me a phrase during one of our first one-on-ones. Clarity creates energy, which has been my anthem ever since, written on the chalkboard in my kitchen. There have been so many gifts from Gordon, and I'm beyond grateful for every single one of them. Love you, Gordon. So.
You did, Sherry. Sherry just got engaged and was really struggling and building her business and getting her personal life together because she had no time. And she sent me a picture, and she just got engaged a few weeks ago, and she's putting it all together and talk about somebody that's worked hard, and she broke her leg and all this. Sherry, you've come up against every obstacle, and you continue to overcome them, and you've worked your ass off to get there, and you're doing it all. Love you, Sherry. Sky, thanks for reading that.
Thank you for everything you've done, and that was I was trying to scan the chat and I saw that and I was just like, oh, that's it, we got him. We got him. So anyways, Gordon, can't thank you enough for everything you've done. I can't.
Love you, brother.
I love you too, and I can't wait to see what we continue to create here.
Yeah, no, this is about to go to a place that literally no one ever dreamed of. Our downside's protected. Now it's just about executing of what we set our minds to provide our customers things that they never ever dreamed of. Yeah. It's gonna get crazy the next year or two. It's gonna be a fun ride.
Can't wait. I cannot wait.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. Be sure to check out the show notes to get more information on the 6AMERS and today's guest. To support the show, we would be beyond grateful if you could leave a review and subscribe to the podcast. We always love hearing from you. On behalf of Emily, myself, and the team here at the 6AMERS, we want you to know that you are loved, appreciated, and deserving of healthy, selfish moments. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.